Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Rising to the Challenge, highlighting practices as we pivot into the virtual world for all learners webinar. My name is Danielle Mitchell, and I am the Division Director for Curriculum and Instructional Services here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. We learned how LACOE collaboratively supports districts and schools with academic, behavioral, and social emotional instruction, focusing on meeting the needs of all students, especially during the times that we are in today. We are so excited to hear from our districts that we're going to be sharing with us today. As you are entering the webinar, I was going to say the conference, the webinar, you are asked to put a word into the chat box that described how you feel when you hear about the phrase, pivot into the virtual world for all learners. And look at the words that we have here today. Educators, adaptability, extraordinary, mindfulness, retirement, responsive, overwhelmed, collaboration, learning, creative, flexibility, BAPA, refocusing, redirection, innovative, dreaming, social, creating, community. We're changing. We're learning. It's challenging. It's scary. It's an opportunity. And there's hope. There's hope that what we are doing now, although it seems scary, that there's hope that there's opportunity that we can change the things that we're doing in order to meet our students' needs as we navigate this world that we are now living in. And there's hope that we can challenge ourselves and challenge others to understand the importance that, social emotional learning and understanding all of our students is a basic necessity and a basic need. So thank you for participating in our world. And thank you for all that you're doing to support our students each and every day. So now what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at this little dumpling here. And she is from Thorogold Marshall Lower Academy. And she's going to really take us through this mindful activity. So everyone, let's take a look at her because she is just so cute and it's so great to see students right now. And hear what she has to say and how she can help us ground ourselves as we begin our webinar.
Please close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Think about the positive thoughts and let go of the negative thoughts. See how your body maintains relaxation and calmness. If your body is stressed, ignore all the distractions around you. If that doesn't work, take 5 deep breaths and repeat.
Wasn't she just a breath of fresh air? And wasn't what she had us do so easy? I just love her and I love that video. Thank you so much. This is just a reminder how important it is to create equitable, safe, inclusive, and nurturing educational environments to ensure continuity of learning and safety of students, staff, and families during this unprecedented times. Now I would like to introduce to you Dottie Yasais, Project Director for the Center of District Distance and Online Learning, who graciously worked to develop this webinar and who will be setting the stage to highlight the work being done in Los Angeles County. Thank you, Dottie.
Thanks, Danielle. 100% I agree. That little girl just taught me so much, and I'm reading the comments as you're commenting on her, Danielle, and everyone felt her leadership quality, and they fell in love with her. So it speaks so highly to how our students can have a voice in this work that all of us are trying so hard to do, and as we pivot. So thank you again, Danielle, for sharing that with us. Welcome, everyone, to those of you that I've had the pleasure and just the pleasure to work with in the past. Hello again. We're considering this a little reunion for Scale Up Academy, for our TEAL, TELA, and our sport people. And welcome to all of you that are joining us nationally. We are beyond grateful to have this opportunity to share what the Los Angeles County Office of Education has been doing in the area of social emotional learning, in the area of English learners, arts integration, mental well-being, and suicide prevention. These are all projects and work that we've been doing for many, many years, but every year it's a new challenge, and I feel personally this year has been a little more challenging for me, but luckily I get to work with talented people, serving as the director for the Center for Distance and Online Learning. We've been able to pivot, not that it hasn't been challenging, but all of our work has always been collaborative, collective, and using technology, knowing that LACOE, we know how big we are, and serving 1.5 million students and everyone else involved, that we had to embrace technology earlier than later. It's just harder to do during a pandemic. So believe me, we get it, we understand. Even though I've been here 18 years doing this technology work, doing it during a pandemic is a whole different project, challenge for all of us. So my job is to introduce some fabulous, amazing, I know, overused word. That's why I call these people rock stars, educational rock stars. I've been able to work with for many, many years that have really shown some huge leadership and have embraced the content that we have been able here at LACOE to provide during our hybrid, our blended online learning opportunities. So I'm just setting the stage, and I get the great pleasure to introduce wonderful people. So kind of love my job right now. And I also wanted, for those of you I know are in charge of professional development, I wanted to share some successful implementation model components that are part of all the work we do, whether it's a multi-million-dollar grant for 5 years, which is our TELA grant, which is serving our English learners through the arts, or something just a small partnership with a community member, maybe an artist. We always try and embed these practices. So I looked through the list this morning of everyone who's here with us. And I was very happy because I recognize many of the names. And I know you do professional development on your end, whether it's for your staff or for the county or for the state. So one thing, all of our work is now, one component is all of our work is collective impact. Now I know a lot of people use that word. We use it in the truest sense. We serve as the backbone for all of our projects. We collectively work with local partnerships and bigger partnerships that have made it possible for us to do this work, like the Los Angeles County Office of Arts and Culture, the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health, the Los Angeles Department of Parks and Recreation. We couldn't do this without them because they provide leadership, funding, and just support for our districts as they move this important work forward. Also, another piece that not too many people use, but we started this work when we were given the SMH work, which we did for CCSSO in 2011. When we do PDs, we really have moved away from what we call train and hope. You train the people, you work really hard together, and then you hope when they go back, it all happens. Well, we all know what happens when we go back. So most, if not all of our big projects now, and even smaller projects, include a contract of deliverables. So the people who attend our PDs also make a commitment to delivering the PD to their parents, to their students, and to their community and their teachers, administrators. But I want to tell you, we all know that's the how piece that you'll be seeing today later on with all of our districts that are being highlighted. We as a county office have made the commitment to provide the coaching, the support on the side, get those artists in there if it's someone local they need, get that right cultural responsive piece there into the fold so they can do their work with great integrity. So it's a commitment contract for the people we work with, but it's a contract for us to provide that ongoing support for them. Lastly, I would say another important piece is to make sure if you have the opportunity when you do your PDs, do it for teams and don't do it for the usual teams. I mean, I know there's teachers out there, I used to be one back in the day, who I would love to go to a PD with my best teaching friend or principal or whomever it was at that time as a new teacher. And we would discuss and we would do our work and we would bring it back to the district and do good work. But what we found, we're asking districts, we challenge them and they've met the challenge tenfold to bring a team from your district that possibly has never worked before together. We now in our TEAL project, and you're going to hear more about the projects, they bring teams of mental health specialists, maybe a nurse, maybe a counselor, a psychologist. They bring a teacher who's enthusiastic, talented, has that connection to community. We bring that, and they bring those administrators that have the power to make it happen. And what that does, that brings that collective impact model at all different levels throughout the whole system. And that changes that system for the better. It creates that common language we always struggle with, because then you have the school psychologist talking to that teacher, talking to that parent, and they understand each other a little bit better because they've been in this work for a while. So those are my tidbits that I have from the Center for Distance and Online Learning. I'm here to help anyone, any leadership, whomever you are, parents, as they also are part of this pivoting and this virtual learning. What's wonderful is that our teachers, our principals are quite spectacular. I want to give you a little hint of what's coming your way in the time we have to spend here. Let's take a minute. Let's enjoy this magic that's happening virtually at home as schools are pivoting and involving parents and bringing the best learning to the home environment. I want to highlight right now, I want to share with you Los Altos Elementary School, part of the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. I happen to come from there. And I want you to see how a teacher made it happen, how a school made it happen to not only bring arts integration, art history, writing, vocabulary development for English learners into the classroom. And you tell me your heart's not touched after this little video we're going to share with you of how parents are giving their 100% also in partnership with our schools to make sure our children get the very best. So please sit back and enjoy. Pretty great, right? So opportunity, I loved that in the wordle that that Danielle shared with you earlier. Did you see the biggest word out there? Opportunity. And that was an opportunity a clever teacher took to engage their parents, to give them an opportunity to have conversation, to have student voice, to have parent voice, and to learn. So I just wanted to tease you with that, because our districts that are sharing will be sharing very similar, very, very creative, thoughtful, engaging strategies now that we live in a virtual world. So expanding your SEL knowledge and how we address SEL here at LACOE and out of the Center for Distance and Online Learning is critical for us to really address equity and the liberation for all learners and teachers to be for those important topics to be addressed. SEL is very, very connected to that. We need to think about that. We need to expand our definition, just as this slide says. We've all seen the slide before, but now with the liberation and the connection of SEL and having the center really be that social justice and equity piece is pretty great. Social emotional learning, SEL stands for social emotional learning, and it really defines how we make sure and we assure all children have access to learning. So thank you for that question in the chat. No problem. So we need to provide professional development. Again, those of you that are attending PD and those of you who provide PD, I want you to keep your eyes open for this. I want you, when you go to social emotional learning, professional developments that are centered on social emotional learning, try not to use all the acronyms because I know we have parents with us as well, and you know, us educators, we're kind of crazy about that stuff. So let's see if we can really find and grow our own work that we've been doing possibly for years. I know our unit has been working with social emotional learning for 6 years now. Let's make sure that it has that connection so that we can provide professional development that's aimed at teachers to be anti-racist educators in SEL. And you'll see the stepping stones, you see the blocks, you see where SEL really, really plays a big part of it. And I want you to know, a lot of times people would talk about SEL as these soft skills. Well, done. If you ever hear that, I hope you speak up, as I've learned to speak up and say, actually, that's probably the hardest skill that I know. Making children connect, making children really, really believe in themselves, have a voice, have access. If we can get them to really understand how to self-regulate, how to understand their feelings, how to manage their feelings, boy, we have done an incredible job, not only for that child, but for the world. We know that data and research really has to lead our work as well at the county office. You know, something may feel good, but we always want to make sure we have the latest and greatest data behind us. So I want to share with you Dr. Mark Brackett. I'm very fortunate to be part of a 3-day seminar with him right now, where he shared the COVID-19 findings that I thought you might appreciate. And please know, this whole webinar is being captioned, and it's also available to you, and we will send these links out immediately, because you need to share and have access to this content as well and these findings. You'll see that during April, and we're just talking about COVID-19 starting in March until now, Dr. Brackett shared these findings with us. Look at that, about 25% of the teens say they've lost their self-confidence during COVID-19. The mental distress, the large increase of serious distress for adults too. So I just want to end this on want to note that we have the opportunity now, as you've indicated in the Moodle, to make things a little better, a little stronger, a little more meaningful for all learners during this transitional time we're in. It's challenging, it's hard. I don't think change is easy ever, and during a pandemic, a little bit harder, but I know together we can do it, because you'll see some examples right now, and you're going to have some time with some people who've done an incredible job to make it real for our students and our adults. It's all about that quality of life for adults and children. So I want to take this minute and this opportunity. I have the pleasure to introduce Kim Breen. Kim Breen has been a partner of ours, a partner, I don't want to say in crime, a partner in success with us for many years. She is a change agent as the very best example. So Kim, welcome.
Thank you, Dottie. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Welcome, everyone. So glad that you could all join us during this time. I'm Kimberly Breen, and I am so grateful to be able to help introduce you to the innovative virtual work that LACOE has been doing during this time, but even before. I'm also grateful to be their partner in multi-tiered systems of support, and I will hope to help you all make some connections between your work and the work that you're going to be seeing displayed here today. We know that everyone already has many of these ingredients, and so you're going to see these ingredients leveraged in some amazing ways. And we know that you have probably already invested in things like MTSS, PBIS, UDL, RTI, and all the other acronyms out there, and that you also have the arts and you have programs for teaching English. And so what you're about to see is how people have used technology to leverage that work in new and exciting ways to reach more audiences, more children, more families, more staff, and to really integrate it all into a kind of seamless tapestry of work. We hope that this time inspires you to think about this time of transition, sort of the way a butterfly would be in their chrysalis, and that you can be thinking about emerging even better than before. So we can take advantage of this opportunity. In fact, many of us feel that education has this rare opportunity right now, this sort of invitation to innovate, and as Dottie and Castle says, to liberate. So my 11-year-old son just recently said to me, there's been so many changes in the world right now. It's almost like, he said, I guess there's upgrades for life, just like there are in video games. And I love that idea, because I don't know that much about video games, but I know an upgrade is a good thing. And so it's a good way for us to think about this unique time in history, to not just survive during this moment, but to really thrive. And so there's no more innovative project I can think of than TEAL. TEAL is certainly an upgrade to PD. And so TEAL stands for Technology Enhanced Arts Learning. And they provide online and in-person professional development, although now moving forward it'll be all online. And they use a training of trainers model, working with teachers, administrators, social-emotional learning specialists, artists, and expanded learning staff. So please, as you go throughout this time, be thinking of all the human resources you have that can help you do this work. And so we want to really make sure our expanded learning staff are part of all of this exciting work. And then they work together to embed social-emotional learning content and awareness into arts-based teaching practices. And really what that means is keeping everything as interconnected as possible. So delivering academic content through the arts woven with social-emotional learning. It's really amazing. And part of what makes TEAL so exciting are their partners. You can tell from Dottie's spirit, those of you who don't know her yourself, you can just tell how engaging and welcoming she was just now. And they have really reached out to so many partners in the LA area. So you can see them here These are all places and people that are worth your time to check out online. And when the time is right, in person. They just do amazing work on their own. But then together, working with educators, they've been able to create these really amazing content and instruction for young people and for adult learners. So we know that there's no place quite like LA, but we do know that all cities, all towns have some of these art-based community groups. So we really encourage you, as you get excited listening today, reach out to your community members, reach out to local organizations. We believe, like the LACOE County has found, that they will be really eager partners with you. So then what's been really exciting is to see this project called TELA, which stands for Teaching English Learners Through the Arts, how this project was launched off of the success of TEAL. So really leveraging this idea of using the arts, using arts-based instruction for students who are learning English. And this was one that I was really excited to see take off. It's really groundbreaking professional development and family community engagement work. And, you know, it's this idea of making children excited and have fun while they're learning. We know so often when children struggle in an area, if they're trying to learn something that's a big undertaking like a language, sometimes school has not been the most engaging place for them. And so it's so inspiring to me. And I feel like what they're really doing is taking on educational equity by making sure that all youth have access to really high quality instruction. And the TELA project does this for over 1,700 students in the LA area. And they serve these schools called intensive schools where the student populations, you know, pretty high percentages of students who are learning English, 50 to 80% of the students learning English, and about 80% or so of the students are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged. So really such a great service that LACOE, CDOL, and TELA provide for families. And we know that this kind of project could be replicated throughout the country. We really hope to see folks here learning today and maybe following up with LACOE after today to figure out how you could launch some of your own projects. We know there are many children in need of this kind of educational equity all throughout the country. So we're really glad you're here and hope that you plan to take some of this back with you. One of the things that TELA does is it unifies the expertise of this Center for Distance and Online Learning along with the multilingual academic support. And this is all out of the county office. So they're also really modeling how within county offices, departments and divisions can work together to do this sort of interconnected, woven tapestry in order to really meet the needs of all the adult learners, so they have what they need to go take the material back to their children, to their student learners and their families. So please, as you're thinking today about this sort of theme of things being interconnected, blending all of this work together, all too often, even within a single district or a single county or a single state department, we have too much separation there. And we believe the best work is done when we bring that all together. And I think the next project is a great example of this. SPORT stands for Suicide Prevention and Ongoing Resiliency Training. And this is their second round of this training. We're going to talk about here SPORT 2. They do have a SPORT 3 coming up soon, which will be all virtual, all online learning. But up to this point, it's been a blended model. And they really connect this innovative work using the collective impact model to address a pretty hard topic around suicide awareness and prevention. The PD delivery includes modules for presenting to families and community members and for people who come to the training to take it back to other staff in their buildings. And so just like Dottie was saying, all too often we get a team of people trained and those are the people who stay trained. We really need to make sure that we are building capacity using that kind of training of trainer model to spread the work way much further and beyond. And like we talked about partnerships, SPORT is another great example of robust partnerships within LA. In this case, LACOE partners with the LA Department for Mental Health and the California Mental Health Service Authority, which again, we know that all of you have these groups in your own areas. So remember, education is best when it doesn't just work internally. We want to deliver education to our children, support our staff and our families in a way that really feels collective. And so all too often, we just don't reach out and realize that you might have public libraries that want to partner with you right now. Your own departments of mental health might want to do more partnering. So please consider how you might be able to reach out to these groups. And so really what SPORT does is it focuses on helping districts align policies and practices with what here in California is called AB 2246. And that's the state bill requiring school districts to provide prevention, intervention, and we call postvention training for staff and support to students. And actually that bill is the first of its kind in the nation. We hope that more states follow because unfortunately right now we know that suicide is the second leading cause of death for children 10 and older. So if it's something that folks aren't really tackling right now, we hope that you're going to see some inspiring examples here today that might help you launch your own efforts around suicide awareness and prevention. Sadly, from the data you saw with Dottie, from Mark Brackett and others, it's possible that some children are in a harder place now than they were before. So those numbers, that second leading cause of death was the latest data that was available, and usually it's a year or two old. So just be aware, we want to stay ahead of that and do everything we can to prevent any other challenges that young people are experiencing. So the other thing that SPORT does that's really innovative is that they offer their work, they leverage the strength of the project through a multi-tiered system of support framework. And so I know when we first started, I used a few acronyms, and I apologize. I will now comment on some of those. And I said, you sort of have this alphabet soup of a multi-tiered system of support. And part of that includes what we call a positive behavioral intervention and support, so PBIS, and then social emotional learning, like Dottie spoke about. We know the whole thing is a response to intervention model, or RTI, and that, of course, an integral part of the whole model is universal design for learning, which you'll hear more about today for UDL. And so it's important for us that all of these things are interconnected and woven through the same one system of support, so that your staff don't feel like they have this one other thing that they have to try to remember and do and try to figure out where it fits. If you see here, the triangle is sort of that three-tiered model, that three-tiered framework that all of those other initiatives I mentioned work through. And so you see the castle wheel here around social emotional learning competencies. Those 5 competencies need to be taught to all, some, and few students. And what's been exciting about the work that LACOE is going to share with you here is that then they, to me, I feel like take the next step and they integrate the arts into all of this, which only increases the engagement. And so really, just like we know that people work better together, we believe projects work better together as well. And so part of that reason is we want to meet the needs of all, some, and few youth. And what we mean by that is that there needs to be support delivered to all students in a classroom, all students in a school, all students in a district. And then we need to look at how students respond to that first level of support. And some youth will need an additional layer of support. And that's often called tier 2 or targeted support. And then some students will still need another layer of support, or we call tier 3, a third tier of support. And so sometimes when we say all students, somehow we still miss some students. And so whatever you can do on your end to continue to elaborate on what we mean by all, it's 100% of the population. And then we take everyone as they are, and we do everything we can on our end to help them respond to the supports that we provide. And that's giving sometimes additional layers of support for some youth who need more. So you see here really great work from the Aspen Institute talking about how important it is to integrate social emotional learning. And again, that was prior to this current time. We know it's even more important right now that we really make sure that all children have access to social emotional learning. And I think one of the things I'd like you to take away from this idea, and when I see this picture, it sort of makes me think we really want to treat our schools more like gardens than factories. And so in a garden, everything's different, right? We have all kinds of different life, you know, it looks different, it smells different, it has different purposes, and they all work together really well. A factory, we sort of expect things to come in the same and leave the same, right? And so if the widget doesn't fit the factory model, it's a bad widget, and we take it out and we put it somewhere else. And the kind of end result when boxes leave a factory is that all the items in that box are the same. Everyone will be better off when we can get away from a factory model and go more to the model of a garden, where we appreciate, respect, and value all the beautiful uniquenesses that our children bring to us, because we know our world needs them, right? They're ready, they're born to solve problems of the future that we haven't even imagined yet. And that's a theme we use with our family. So you'll see here a picture of me with my husband and son, and we are in one of our many family costumes. So that's a Chewbacca bodysuit there. And we don't just do this at Halloween. We tend to use theater, use play, use dress up in a lot of ways and a lot of times in our home. And so our son has autism. This is Orion. He's 11 years old. And we weren't sure if he was going to ever gain language. When he was young, he did everything much later than other children. And it was really through play, really intensive sort of, we all do it. We can call it theater, but at home, you know, you take the doll and the one doll talks to the other doll, or the one puppet talks to the other puppet. And it was through engaging him in that way that we really got to do, you know, what we call forming joint attention. Some of you know what that means, of really getting an eye gaze and getting connected. His language started to really come out and really sprout. And now he has a better vocabulary than I do in most ways. And so I'd just like to share this little example of how important it is.
So I was just referencing this handbook, and I love how they combine, they really merge the arts in with special education. You know, and it made me think of what you were just sharing, Dottie, about this idea of giving children the freedom to explore, really the liberation to discover who they are. Is beautiful. And so I really want to encourage everyone, like Dottie was, to really focus on family voice and student voice as much as possible. Here you'll see another colleague of mine, Terry, and her son. When we think about family voice, really we want to make sure that we are asking families and asking students what they want, what they need, and really being truly ready to hear them, to really to ask questions and help them feel safe in answering, and then really be ready to hear them and act on what they share. And so this is a picture of Terry with her very tall son, Judah. They were at my home showing me a project that he had worked on around leadership that he was really excited with. And unfortunately, Judah did not have a very good experience in his K-12 learning. They faced many challenges in getting his special needs addressed. And Terry would always say, you know, I just wish they would partner with me. That's all I really want, is for the school to partner with me. But thank goodness, because she's such a strong person, she helped get him through that. He's now in college, so, you know, go Judah. And he's doing very well in college with support. And so, you know, we really just want to keep our eyes open, our hearts open. When families are reporting challenges, when they're having a hard time, there's a reason, right? And so often just listening to people and hearing where they are goes a really long way. So as you think of the arts, you know, maybe be thinking, like you saw that example from Dottie, as an example of how to leverage the arts as a way to partner with families. Maybe families that don't feel as comfortable in some of the other academic areas, they may be able to partner with you through the arts. So you can see a link here at the bottom. Castle has a great resource to help you get started with really leveraging the voice of families in your work. And so we hope that you can take advantage of that. And, this idea that everyone will do better in an organization when they feel heard and when they feel part of it. And so sometimes when we're facing challenging relationships, challenging situations, we can use our own social emotional learning to really kind of get ourselves being mindful and grounded, and then engage with someone in a way that feels opening and welcoming, instead of us kind of feeling threatened, which often happens, I think. And so LACOE and other groups now are doing a lot of work to help adults improve their social emotional learning. It's very hard to help children with these skills if we don't have them ourselves. And so on that note, we want to make sure that we give you guys some mindfulness breaks during this time together. We have an amazing lineup. I'm so glad to just be here to listen and learn from the people who are coming on now. And we just want to give you the prompt to be stretching as needed. So none of you are on camera, so don't hesitate to get the shoulder rolls and the neck rolls, and do whatever you need to feel comfortable during this learning time. And I'll be happy to kind of see you and talk with you again in between the other sessions as we go through today. So we have a panel of folks, and they are all the real deal. They're all the real leaders in the real schools and districts doing this work. I've been so excited, Dottie, to get to see and meet and watch some of these people do their work. So thank you for having such a great lineup for us here. And we're going to be starting with Claremont Unified.
That's right. They've done an incredible job of bringing what they've done at the PDs and making it happen. One of the other things I wanted to share with everyone, and Kim, all your words just make me excited again, was about the quality of life for the adults and the students, which is what you brought to the table when we did Scale Up. And I would say Natalie and her team are doing it probably the best that I've seen. And I'm lucky I have 80 districts to go visit and learn from. And so the opportunity to have Claremont and Natalie share is a gift. And Natalie, thank you for the gift.
Oh, thank you, Dottie, and thank you to the team at LACOE for all that you have taught us. It's been a great partnership. I have the pleasure, thank you to all of you logging in today and joining us. I have the pleasure of sharing some of the work that we have been doing in Claremont to engage our administrative team. We know that in order to engage our students and our teachers, we really are training our administrators to head out there into the field and do this work. So we'll be looking at 2 strategies that I want to be able to share with you all today that we use here with our teams. The first is really looking at self-awareness, the ability for the adults to enter the space and understand that their emotions, their thoughts, and their values are influencing their behavior as they do the educational work that they do each day. And so our mood meter is something, not our mood meter, Mark Brackett's mood meter is something that we've used to say, where are you, what do you bring to the table today as you enter this space of learning in our administrative meetings that we have in our trainings with our admin team. So what's your energy level at? Where's your pleasant state? And then we talk about really how do we get into the green, because the green is where we can engage in the good work that we do. And this can be done virtually. This is, an image that really allows folks to say, where am I at today? What am I bringing to the table? And how can I move forward? So again, that was Mark Brackett's work. If you haven't read Permission to Feel, pick it up. I highly recommend it. We also talk about self-awareness with a visual body scan. Just an image of an outline of a body. Where is my head at today? How are my hands feeling? Are my feet cold? Have I been sitting for too long? What am I bringing to this space? And how can I adjust myself so that I can engage in this work more effectively? So that was self-awareness. This is something that we do at our admin meetings. And then I wanted to share an activity that we do, that we have done surrounding social awareness. And I think that really looking at the perspective of other folks and empathizing with others, understanding social norms is going to be critically important in the upcoming year. We've got 2 really major social issues going on with COVID, but also the racial injustices that we're seeing. And so how do we engage in these conversations in a safe space that allows people to access the perspectives of other folks. And so we've done that through the arts and through a telestrategy of See, Wonder, Think. So I'll show you some pictures of some artwork in a minute, and really looking at the pieces and thinking, what do I see in this picture? What do I wonder about how maybe a character in the painting is feeling? What do I think is happening based on my personal experiences? So we did this with our administrators. We started with a Frida Kahlo piece that really looks at a lot of different people in this painting in particular. We've got a good conversation piece to really look at See, Wonder, Think. Then we moved into this street scene. So Jacob Lawrence was, in the 30s and 40s in the Harlem Renaissance period, really spent a lot of time sharing the African-American experience and diving into civil rights. And so we used this painting as the See, Wonder, Think for our administrative team. And then finally, a piece from the early 1800s, Japanese Girls Festival, and looking at some social norms of the time and engaging in some conversations about personal experiences that our admin team have had. So you'll see these are our administrators on their gallery walk. They're engaging in that work. What was really interesting, we found that as soon as I let the team go, I didn't give any particular cues as to how to behave, but everybody went into full art gallery mode. It was very quiet. So we can use this even virtually to work with our administrative team, but also to share out with our students social norms in settings that they may not be able to visit right now. Maybe they're virtually visiting art galleries. So what does that look like? And what are some of the norms that we have in the work that we do that our kids are not going to get to experience because they're going to be learning virtually this year as we keep moving forward? So these were just some strategies that you all can take and use with your teams. They're easily adaptable to a virtual learning environment, but we feel it's really important to meet the social and emotional learning needs of our administrative teams as they engage in the work of really leading our schools and leading our students in their own social and emotional learning. So here's my contact information. Feel free to contact me with any questions that you have. And again, thank you to Dottie and Kim and everyone on this call for all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Natalie. I love that. Dottie, Natalie just hit on another part that's come out in SEL recently. Dr. Mark Brackett has in research indicating, when our principals have social emotional skills, emotional intelligence, and they can help our teachers have social emotional skills, and then they can help our students, right? So what a great place to focus that work.
100%. And Natalie has been instrumental in making the engagement bloom into the district office. What a thought. And those of us who have had experience at the district office, we know SEL needs to bloom and they need to have the support. We all need. We're better together, as the saying goes. So I see Carla is our next presenter. I'm so excited. Whittier City School District. Boy, they had they replicated, that's what they said, they replicated a teal day and a scale up day for I believe it was their special ed principals, a whole day. They didn't replicate, they made it so much better because, as I've always preached, and those of you who know me are going to say, oh, there she goes again. You guys know your systems better than we do here at the county office. We know research. We know best practices. So together with us on one end, you on the other, we can really make it powerful at each district and customize the services to really serve everyone. So, Carla, I'm excited for you to highlight what's going on at Whittier City. Whenever I get an invitation from you, I'm there. And virtually, I've been getting quite a few invitations for special Wednesdays. I don't want to say too much about it because I think you'll be talking about it. So Carla, please take it away.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. I'm working currently as an instructional coach for Whittier City, but my background is in speech pathology, general education, and special education. And I'm honored today to be able to share our Scale Up Teal journey with Whittier City School District and just specifically focus on how it's really done a lot to build and strengthen our community through social emotional learning and through the arts, especially as we obviously all navigate this distance learning. So I wanted to share a little bit about how it's really, we call it our teal tale timeline. And our teal tale, the reason why I'm sharing this timeline is because I really want to demonstrate that it was just an experience and a journey. And this journey really gained strength from its teal community, from our educators, our Whittier City School District, our students. And our tale really began in June of 2019, where our 4-person team of Diana, Alex, Christine, and I experienced the arts and SEL. And I have to highlight the word experienced because it was just an unbelievable time to be able to share and be welcomed by this community. So I want to take you through just a really quick snapshot of how the next few months were really about support and planning and really looking at this vision of how we wanted to bring the arts and social emotional learning. And the words that come to mind from our team, our initial 4-person team, was powerful, transformative, engaging. And so we started really developing this vision and decided that we wanted to recreate that magic, that Scale Up Teal magic, with our own Whittier City School District Teal Mini Academy and focus on our mild to moderate students' special education. So we planned, and we really kept asking that question of what if. It kept going back to what if there was joy in learning? What if we were more engaged? What if we brought SEL and arts? And that question really, on that journey, it took different detours, it took different turns, unexpected turns. But all in all, I think our team realized that it was just full of support and love and care. And our event was a success. It was great. And then I'm sure we all know that March 2020 hits. And so this extraordinary journey, everything that was doing, just really hit a hard stop. And that unexpected detour to now distance learning. And the amazing thing with this is just really looking at that community that was built. And so now we're looking at our strong, innovative teachers and our communities, our educators, and it brings this what if. So this question came up in conversations and using all this amazing innovation and tech that we were seeing educators across the globe participate in. What if we braid technology and innovation, all that the educators are sharing, with the arts and social emotional learning? So that brings me to the Bitmoji classroom. So I do want to share my Calm Classroom with you and share that this is an interactive spot and just one way that we can braid social emotional learning and arts in just an interactive environment. And what it's doing is it's really taking students' needs, keeping in mind at this time location and resources, where our students are, and linking it to that virtual classroom that we're seeing teachers across the globe share, this virtual classroom, right? And so I know there was a tutorial that was shared, there's a link, so it gives you more detail there, but I wanted to walk you through just a quick tour and then share that our educators at Whittier City are starting to do this. We're seeing some art rooms, we're seeing some math rooms come up, especially as we just completed our summer school. So it really does start with what Dottie was sharing with that Wellness Wednesday. So during distance learning, teachers were asking all of us, our team, our educational leaders, for strategies. How do we breathe? So in an interactive classroom like this, you can link an article, you can link an activity. We were getting, how do you meditate? Where do I begin? So inspired by Teal, this idea of a Wellness Wednesday came up. And so in conferring with colleagues and what can we do, Wellness Wednesday was a time for us to just share an hour of breathing, art, music, meditation. There was drumming. And as you can see with the Google type classroom, you can link it to your Google Drive. Your Bitmoji classroom will link you to that drive. So teachers are able to see these slides. So, the wheels are turning, I'm getting feedback, small but mighty. And one of our newer teachers shared that she was using these slides with her students and with her parents, her families. And, it came up that this is my favorite part of distance learning. So we thought, gosh, there's something there. How can we grow this? So again, linking it to my drive, I've got this bingo going on, promoting the positive. How can we really connect this? And then more importantly, how can we find a place where in homes, students can visit a museum, courtesy of Google Arts and Culture? been hearing a lot about Mark Brackett and the mood meter. What is that? How can I look at that? And it's here for you. We want music, a calming playlist. It's here. We want some breathing, relaxing garden meditation. It's there. So I want to quickly jump to just probably the fastest tutorial here of just walking you through how we can do this. So in my quick demo, you will need your plan. Plan is we want to bring arts and SEL into the classroom. So we've got this plan using our Google Slides. Best thing you can do is use this as a canvas. Really look at this as your canvas. And you would need a Bitmoji account. And also the Chrome Web Store has this Bitmoji extension. So those are just those pieces that you're going to need. You're the artist. What I'm going to do is I've already started with the blank canvas. And my friend here, insert. I'm going to go ahead and insert. I'm going to search the web, which comes up here. Some kind of a background to start my art studio. So as I select it, that keyword is insert. And the keyword is transparent. I'm now in this art room. I can create this. I want my students to know who I am. I want them to recognize me. So I'm going to go to my Bitmoji. And since I want this to be a music art type room, as I click on my Bitmoji and copy it, that now will become part of my classroom. And think about the conversation about area, perimeter, perspective, all these different pieces. I want that musical experience. And one of the things I wanted to share is that I have all these different tabs open with my resources. So again, we're just playing with insert, and I want to link some music. So I've selected a piece on YouTube. Just a matter of a copy, going back to that classroom, going to an insert and link, and suddenly my students can come into this classroom, click on that link, and they're going to experience music. So really making it an interactive place. We mentioned art. I'm taking a screenshot very quickly of Van Gogh Starry Night, so I can do that here. I've done it already. I have it loaded up here. So when I go back to that classroom and I think, where do I want that art piece to go? I'm now going to bring students not only to art, but take them to a museum, right? So I'm going to go to my insert. My image, instead of searching the web, I'm now going to upload it from my computer. So again, everything's here for me. Here's my Starry Night screenshot that I took. And again, bringing in the components of technology, STEAM, adding that piece. I can always make a frame, I can add a border, but I want to insert now something from Google Arts and Culture, which I was happy to see that today featured Van Gogh. So I want to take my students to a museum. I want to take them to experience music, art, to explore, to play, as we saw in all those amazing videos earlier, to just experience that art piece. So as I take them through a museum, again, I've only played with the insert right now. Now I'm going to take my students to our virtual museum. And you can see that this classroom is growing and growing. And so we've got our music, we've got our art. And I think the only other piece I wanted to really touch on, just to kind of bring it to life for you and to show you how we can walk through, we can visit, is one more time, just go through and add. As I insert one more thing, if I search the web and it comes up on the side, love that transparent word, which just makes everything so much easier. I feel like such an artist here, and I hope you'll have a great time as I am. I want to add something as easy as maybe like a television in here. I'm going to size that up. And we tried this with one of our classrooms, and I wanted to bring dance in here. So for the kind of finale, if I want to add a little dance, I've been playing with images, want to add a video. So when I go to video, it's going to take me to YouTube. Oh my goodness, Nutcracker Ballet. And suddenly this television screen becomes very interactive. And you can kind of see where this is going, where students will look as if this is being featured on the screen. So I know this was a very quick walkthrough of just our teal timeline and taking you through these pieces, but we've just created an experience where students can have art in their home. They can now go create, they can watch. And if we click play, you should be able to see they can watch a little bit of our ballet. So in a nutshell, this is the joy of Whittier City. It's braiding technology. I hope that's spinning those wheels for you. So please create, have fun, think about those kiddos out there. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate Teal and Scale Up. Thank you all so much.
Carla, we appreciate you. I have a feeling you're getting some round of applause out there. People are loving it in the chat box. Just
Yes.
so exciting.
Lots of love, lots of love. And someone was sharing, Christiane said, today's emoji day. So, I mean, hello, how appropriate is that? We planned that, Christiane. Not. Anyway, Carla, you'll see why we've encouraged these diverse teams to come to Teal, right, Kim? Because, you know, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing that Carla's a TOSA and she has that special ed background, and she has just worked with leadership in special ed and students and teachers and parents, and has really made these tools, these technology tools, help the virtual world come alive, engage, do all those things that we're struggling and making sure happen for all our students. So bravo. So Kim, we have Baldwin Park. Now Baldwin Park, I have to do this little kind of bow here. They are so open and willing to be part of our projects. They're one of those districts, you know, are innovative and open. They're open to do the best work that they can. And so they are part of that. We keep talking about the federal grant, teaching English learners through the arts. They're a huge part of that. They're one of our intensive districts. There's only 2. And we are just so proud to call them a partner. So Baldwin Park, take it away.
Thank you, Dottie. Thank you, Kimberly. Let me get my... Okay, so I am Carissa Cuenca, and I am the teacher on special assignments supporting VAPA in Baldwin Park. Oops. As a TOSA supporting VAPA, I am both honored and excited to support the implementation and to have the opportunity to work with dedicated professionals making a meaningful and lasting impact in the lives of our students. Our district has 2 schools, Margaret Heath Elementary and Ernest R. Geddes, that are beginning the 4th year of participation in TELA. With the school leadership of Dr. Alonso and Ms. Garcia, plus their dedicated teachers, and the district support of Dr. Richard Noblet, Geddes and Heath are continuing, especially during this pandemic, the momentum to increase the arts in all elementary grades. By partnering with TELA, students benefit from arts integration through an increase in cultural awareness, an increase in parent awareness, an emphasis in written expression, an increase in oral expression, an increase in the usage in content-specific vocabulary, and an increase in their confidence and their motivation. And I'm proud to be a part of this amazing program going on in these 2 schools.
Hello, amazing colleagues in this world of education. I'm Dr. Alonso, the principal at Heath Elementary. There are many benefits, as Carissa has said, to our integration. I'll be sharing a few examples from both Heath and Geddes. We'll start off with the cultural awareness slide. So through TILA, we have seen a huge increase in students' cultural awareness. We know that if our future generations, especially during this critical time, are going to become agents of change, it's important that we help them understand and communicate effectively with other people from other cultures. Because most importantly, we know that cultural competency starts with the self. It's really important that we have self-awareness as well, especially if we're going to drive that collective efficacy. Our students, especially those who are defined as minorities, underrepresented, at risk, those are students that really need to move along and be given those tools to understand the need to be culturally competent. Cultural competency is embracing the beauty of their own narrative. A student was inspired after learning the cha-cha-cha through Conga Kits, and she writes, well, the class of cha-cha-cha, it was something new for me. My mother says that my father's grandparents dance cha-cha-cha very well. I would like to learn because it is a dance of my ancestors. She says, hopefully one day I can see my grandparents to watch them dance. I will continue practicing in my class. It was a good class. Through this experience, this student initiates an interest of learning more about himself and the experience of his grandparents, his ancestors, which consequently will contribute to his cultural competency as he engages in his educational experience. That seed has been planted. On the next slide, we have also seen an increase in parent involvement at both sites. Through arts integration, we have seen that our parents feel invested and they realize the importance of arts integration as well. At both Geddes and Heath, we did a series of parent workshops last year produced through art and poetry scrapbooks. This year, our parents learned new dances while having fun with their children. And yes, this was even during the pandemic. At both of our sites, parents are invested in learning the importance of arts integration, especially when it's the how it impacts their children's learning. It's important, very important during this very critical time that our students continue to sustain a feeling of connectedness through their relationships with friends, relationships with school, and especially with family. In this writing sample titled Quarantine Cha-Cha-Cha, our student learns the 4 basic elements of the cha-cha-cha with his mother. Through flexibility and vulnerability, he experiences a productive struggle and realizes that he can have fun with his mom. Quarantine cha-cha. And I'll just read the last part. My favorite part of the cha-cha-cha lesson was the cha-cha-cha basic steps because the rest of the dance moves were a little too hard. The most difficult part for me was the hip twist moves from the end because for me, they were going fast and I was completely lost from there. My mom was all over the place too, and we kept bumping into each other. But other than that, it was a fun lesson to learn new moves. And as educators, we can infer that there's a lot of assessment that can occur with this writing reflection. This student is aware of his procedural learning, and he does not hold back to describe mom's lack of control of gross motor skills. The last slide, written expression. Through the integration of the arts, we have also seen an explosion of writing. Writing at both sides smells, it feels, and it sounds real. But why? All the ingredients needed for increased craft in writing occurs when we integrate the arts into student learning. There is explicit teaching, application of a new skill, experience, and it's done with an emotional connection. In this case, it was done through dance. This particular writing sample, the first one, you'll see a cat, and it's titled Conga Kids, the Bloco Afro Resilience. And if I give you a little bit of background, the Bloco groups are a community of organizational dancing groups that reinforce pride in African heritage and culture through music and dance. The Blocos are due to the concerns with cultural resistance issues such as racism in education, employment, etc. In this writing sample, our student writes about resiliency and the concept of it. And she uses a descriptor of a cat because the cat, of course, can survive on its own, according to her understanding, and street cats can hunt. So they're really resilient. In the second writing sample, a student writes about his experience after learning the paso doble, which is a stirring and dramatic dance inspired by Spanish bullfighting. And he writes a very reflective piece. In this writing, the student informs us of the process, the challenges, gives advice, gives an opinion, and a little bit of history. But throughout, there's a voice and an understanding of the origins of this dance, the paso doble. Thank you, Carissa. Irene?
Hello, everybody. This is Irene Garcia, principal at Geddes, and I'd like to address specifically what we've seen in regards to increase of oral expression through our tele program. We definitely had seen an increase of student engagement and expression, but I believe that in a large part of our success has to do to our team of teachers and ensuring that they have a plan. Here you see an example of what's called an integrated arts content instructional planner, and the success of making sure that our students are growing in their oral expression is their time to plan together, plan strategies that lend to opportunities for students to show what they know. And I highlighted in the planner the exact strategies and activities that our teachers collectively together planned units and ensure that they are going to teach this to our students. I believe that the particular instructional planner that embeds these activities for example, in this particular planner lesson unit that our teachers planned, they made very specific, intentional activities such as observational charts, cooperative teams, collaborative summaries, exploration experiments, oral presentations, to ensure that the students are practicing the language, the vocabulary, to output the expression and learn. I wish I had video and more time to show you our teachers and our students engage in learning content, because it's powerful to see the work. But the lesson planner, it's key for success, because not only does it ensure quality, equitableness, but also accountability that we are giving our students rigorous instruction that's very purposeful with the integration of the arts. Here, our teachers made sure to embed art forms to show what they know, what they've learned, and to express those learnings through an art form. And the next example is the emphasis on usage of content-specific vocabulary. Again, the same lesson planner where our teachers highlighted the very specific content vocabulary they wanted to touch on and target in our units. Again, this was done collectively. They ensured to embed not only the VAPA standards, but the specific language, targeted language structure, sentence structure, grammar structures that our students were going to be working on in their planner. And again, it goes back to, in order to ensure that we're doing this and sustainability purposes and accountability purposes, this lesson planner kept us on track, and it was collectively designed together by our teachers, providing them that planning time. This is an example of good teaching, good practices, instructional practices to really hold ourselves accountable to good instruction and equitable instruction for our students. I really do have to give kudos to our teachers, as we shift and we pivoted to distance learning. Obviously the quality of instruction was a challenge, but again, going back to our teachers and giving them kudos to their long hours to design lessons, remote lessons, and still ensuring to address new learning, new content, and new vocabulary. And because of the prior planning, our teachers had access to their units and could continue those in their remote learning lessons when we moved in virtually. Next, I'd like to highlight the idea of confidence and motivation. I think it goes without saying that when you integrate the arts and into content learning or literacy, we're going to get high levels of motivation and confidence, because students now have another way of showing what they know and what they've learned versus just reading or writing about it. We saw that particularly in our Conga Kids dance program. Our fifth graders engaged this past spring, and they showed high levels of motivation, engagement, confidence grew greatly. But there was another element of excitement to be in school, to learn. We saw lots of happy students excited to learn new dance moves and integrate those into their learning. Again, with the going virtually, remote learning, it was a challenge to keep the same level of instruction. But again, I'm going back to my teachers who their hard work to ensure that they were providing. And the Conga Kids dance program did provide those lessons for us to share to all our students and our families, our community. And as Dr. Alonso shared an example, our families were able to participate and engage in those dance lessons virtually. And if I had more time, I'd show you videos of our parents participating in those dance sessions and creating that cohesive enjoyment with our families and their child. It was very beautiful to see. I think all in all, I think I'm preaching to the choir when I say that the arts integration and literacy and content learning, has huge academic benefits. It's transformative for all students, but in particularly our English learners. And so with that, I just want to say, thank you to the LACOE partnership with the Telegrant and our coordinator, Arlene Bates, who helps us to be successful. And as we move into virtual next upcoming year, I'm excited for the way we're going to be able to continue to transform and be creative with virtual learning and arts integration for our English learners and all our students.
Awesome. Thank you, Irene and team. What a great presentation to really show people what this really looks and feels like, right? I love that you have your lesson plan up here for people. I see the chat box. People want copies. They want to be able to know how to get this and create their own. I think you guys went so far in answering the questions of like measurable, tangible benefits for arts integration and then how to do it.
All right. So we have Long Beach. We always talk about that parent piece that's so hard to move forward. They have done incredible work, not only with their parents, but with suicide prevention. Kim, we know, we showed the data. We need to deal with it on the preventive end more than the post end. And Long Beach is certainly a fine example of how to do that. Long Beach, are you ready? We are ready for you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Dottie. And before we get into it, let's just start with introduction. So I'm Erin Simon. I am the Assistant Superintendent of School Support Services for the Long Beach Unified School District.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sherry Collar, and I'm a mental health consultant working with Long Beach Unified.
And we're going to be discussing suicide prevention and assessment during school closures. And as Dottie mentioned, we do have a parental component to discuss how we informed and engaged our parents and guardians in this process, just because we know that students were home with their parents for an extended length of time. We wanted our parents to be informed on how to look for red flags or just supports and resources that were out there in the community. And then we also had a staff component as well, just to help them with their mental health needs and social emotional learning. I think sometimes we forget about our staff because we're so heavily reliant on providing supports for our students, but our staff are as equally important. If they are pouring from an empty cup, then it's going to be difficult for them to reach and teach our students. So let's begin our journey.
So in the fall, we started working with our staff. We updated all of our suicide intervention protocols and prevention protocols, in-person trainings for staff. And then we also did an online parent university, which is through LBUSD, and parents can access that live. They also can view those videos at a later time. And then, as always, data is super important, right? That guides our practice at LBUSD. And so we started collecting data and information about how many assessments we were doing, how many students we were hospitalizing, how many times we contacted the PMRT or the MET team, just to give us a better idea to inform our practice and how we would intervene in the future and what kind of trainings were necessary. So since the pivot in March of this year, we knew that it was going to be harder for staff to assess students for suicide in a remote way. So what we did is we modified all of our assessments, and we really wanted to focus in on training and keeping this topic on the minds of all of our staff so that they're actively thinking about student mental well-being in order to be able to provide that support that we know is going to be more challenging when the students are not in a confidential space, when we know that they're not at school, when we're not seeing them every day as regularly as we normally do. So we provided 4 virtual trainings for staff since March 18th. Just to give them the resources that they need to be able to do those assessments. We also had kind of a last minute opportunity to do an online parent university webinar to talk about student mental well-being as well as suicide assessments and how to kind of parents could talk to their students and engage with them and how to ask questions and just to give them a better idea as well about how LBUSD is focusing in on youth suicides and prevention strategies. We continue to document all assessments, to connect with every counselor, psych, nurse that did a suicide assessment. Afterwards, we followed up with them just to see how it went, to provide additional training and support to that staff individual. And then you'll see here we did a couple of other things through our family resource centers in Long Beach Unified School District, as well as our All-In campaign for attendance to really engage with families and make sure that we're talking about social emotional needs, we're talking about suicide, and we're really engaging with our staff, our students, and our parents, as well as the community at large, to really make sure that we are providing as much support as possible to our youth.
So next, just briefly to discuss our suicide statistics in the district, and these are suicide assessments that have been completed from September 2019 to June 2020. Just overall, we had 232 assessments, and as you can see at the start of the school year, September, we had about 28, October, it peaked up to about 51. November, we saw a decrease, December, we saw an increase, as well as January, February. And then March, because that was around the time when schools closed amid COVID-19. We closed on March 13th, and then you saw April begin to peak. We begin to have more conversations with our staff about their responsibilities, them being mandated reporters, and also still complying with completing suicide assessments, right, as they're speaking with students. Then we saw an uptick in May, and then June, we saw a decrease, and that's because, right, school ended on June 10th, I believe, for us. So out of those 232 assessments, the number of times that PMRT, and in Long Beach, we have the MET team as well, we saw that 77 times one of those teams were contacted. And then out of, right, the number of times a PMRT or MET, was contacted, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry, I believe that was 65 students who were hospitalized based on that PMRT or MET contact, resulting in a percentage of calls of 84.4% of those students being hospitalized. So it does show you that when our staff, when they're working on those assessments, when they contact PMRT and MET just because they know it's a high-risk case, those students are hospitalized, and they're hospitalized 85% of the time. That's pretty significant for us to note just for our data, as far as we're seeking more assistance and working with more intensive services, but also for the community in Long Beach to know as well just how deeply we're working with this issue as well. And if you look at the remote suicide training for staff, we really wanted to equip our staff members with this training, with suicide training. So as Sherry mentioned, our nurses, our counselors, our school psychs, we're working on our administrators to be trained as well. We even devised a protocol for our teachers for the summer, not necessarily that they're they conducted, those suicide assessments, but just so they knew who to contact, right, if they were working with a student amid COVID-19 during school closure, or even during extended school year or summer school, they would know who to contact as well. So with the remote suicide training for staff, we reviewed our guidelines, our protocol, our responsibilities regarding suicidal students and suicide assessments. We provided additional guidance on conducting suicide assessments by phone or video. So we also included our Family Resource Center staff. Sherry and I were in that mix as well. The staff wanted to reach out to us just as far as a consultation, or even how, to move forward if they felt, right, they needed just some assistance. We discussed the required documentation, I think, which is also always pivotal and vital with what we do, right? If we don't document, it never happened. We want to document efficiently, appropriately, and correctly, just to ensure that we are encapsulating everything that took place within that assessment. And then we always allow for staff questions. We know that sometimes these are very unique and complex situations to where you want to have a buddy, our partner, just to bounce off ideas. So that was monumental in our efforts as well.
So we just wanted to share this with you guys. We had an assessment flowchart that we had distributed to our staff in the fall, and we knew that we would need to update it. So this is really similar to the one that we typically use at LBUSD, but we wanted to make sure that we kept this kind of on the radar of all of our staff when they're doing remote suicide assessments. We also, in the training, really focused on making sure that staff understood things that they might not necessarily think of when doing a remote suicide assessment, things like, where is the student presently located? Are they at home? Are they in the community? Where is this student? If we have to call 911 because that student hangs up on us, how do we get somebody to help them? So little things like that actually are really big things, but we don't think about them when they're in our office because they're right there in front of us. We know we can typically keep them safe on campus and really be able to keep that kiddo as contained as possible. So we did train all the staff in this assessment flowchart, just kind of talking them through what to do after they've used the assessment and they've determined that the student is either moderate risk, high risk, low risk, or they weren't actually suicidal and they denied all suicidal ideation when we started doing the assessment. So we've gotten feedback from staff that this was really helpful to be able to just follow this flowchart, especially, you know, a lot of our staff were experiencing a lot of stress in working remotely themselves, and then it's really stressful to do a suicide assessment and you're not even with that student, right? So they did find that the assessment flowchart was helpful for them to just kind of make sure that they were following what they needed to do. And then I did talk a little bit about the Parent University. So Parent University at LBUSD is an incredible force. It provides a great amount of information to our parents and our community on all kinds of different topics, mental health, all kinds of different things. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to engage with parents, tell them what we were doing at LBUSD, share kind of our experience in doing our best to support their students as much as possible, and then also give them kind of the language to be able to talk to their kids about suicide. So we focused a lot on questions to ask, how to ask those questions, who to reach out to if they feel that their child is experiencing suicidal ideation, really normalizing some of the cultural things that come into play with regards to parent comfort, talking to their kiddo about suicide, with regards to the student's comfort and talking to the parent about suicide. And then also discussing some of those risks and protective factors in children, really trying to make the parents aware that there are certain risk factors that we want to keep in mind when we're assessing kiddos for suicide, just that kind of increases the risk, even if the child is maybe not saying that they're actively suicidal and that they have intent, plan, and means, but keeping those risk factors in mind when they're talking to their kiddos. And then also we shared with them the LBUSD student support plan that we've created, which is basically like a safety plan for kids to be able to write down who they can contact if they're feeling suicidal, things that make them feel calmer. It also has resources and information on there, phone numbers, text lines, and whatnot for that student to reach out if they're having those suicidal thoughts. We share that with all the parents as well to be able to use with their kiddos if necessary. We also provided the parents with different resources in the community as well as nationally in case they are concerned about suicidal risk for their kiddos. And then we really wanted to have that dialogue and engagement at the end of the training so that parents could ask questions. They were able to ask in a chat box, and then it was presented to us through a moderator. And we were able to really talk about mental health, suicide prevention, as well as what LBUSD has been doing to support our students in those areas. And then the next slide was just the YouTube links to show you guys if you wanted to access it, and then also the data and the numbers. So we had 462 parents attending live during that broadcast, and then we had after that 261 additional hits for the Khmer version, 1498 for the Spanish version, and 4,151 additional hits on the English version. And it was live streamed in English, Spanish, and Khmer. So those 462 were in all three languages.
Wonderful. You got an applause there from Dottie. I'm sure. Thank you both for sharing this. You know, family partnerships is such an important area for our educational system to improve in, and I love seeing examples of districts making it happen, showing that we can get large number of families to show up and turn out for things, and especially around such a hard topic. And we really encourage everyone to take on this hard topic right now, as we know so many of our children are struggling more than they were prior to this period of time.
Absolutely. And the fact that they were able to touch thousands of parents during this time and before, I'm just incredibly impressed and grateful for the work you're doing. And we look forward to continuing our partnership, and just so pleased we were able to share this with our colleagues here. Thank you so much.
Here, Daddy. Thank you so much.
What an example. So we are thrilled to now go into some other units at LACOE and have Dr. James McKenna lead us through this journey of UDL, MOS, special ed, and we have Jackie part of this as well. So James, please take it away.
Thank you, Dottie. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is James McKenna, and I have the pleasure of leading the Inclusive Design Unit here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. Now, my primary work in that unit centers on universal design for learning, and I'm also a member of the CAST National Faculty, CAST being the architects of the UDL framework. So I'm going to begin first, though, by sharing some of the amazing work being done by my colleagues to help educators support our vulnerable populations, particularly English learners and students with disabilities. Recognizing the challenges already facing our most vulnerable students, the primary mission of the Multilingual Academic Support, or MOS unit, during the COVID-19 school closures has been to provide timely English learner program technical assistance, professional development, and resources for LEAs to address the unique needs of their EL students, newcomer immigrant students, and EL students with IEPs during the transition to distance learning instruction without breaking focus on the context of health and safety brought on by a worldwide pandemic and the amplification of the social and emotional impact this event has had on both our students and families. So, led by Ruth Baskett, the MOS unit is committed to the continuity of PD services to the greatest extent possible. Nearly all planned PD sessions were delivered virtually, so things that were originally going to be live were delivered virtually, and many more events were added to provide needed support on new issues facing our LEAs as they transition to distance learning. The MOS unit team participates in the California Department of Education Bilingual Coordinators Network and the California System of Support EL Specialist Groups, where they work with other county offices and institutes of higher ed across the state in providing our LEAs the latest updates on EL programs during COVID-19 school closures. And it's also where they collaborate on finding solutions to problems our LEAs are facing in the delivery of their EL programs. This has been largely possible due to a robust countywide network of EL program leaders throughout Los Angeles County, made up by LEA administrators, program directors, and instructional coaches and teachers who participate in the Bilingual English Learners Directors BELD network. The MOS unit brings together this collaborative community of practitioners monthly for CDEL program updates, the latest EL program research, PD, and sharing and collaboration among LEAs. So the MOS unit, like all of us, had to pivot very quickly, and they expanded and added weekly check-in meetings with LEA EL program leaders beginning in mid-March to provide updates from CDE on the frequent changes to EL program requirements, especially with LPAC assessment requirements. This professional network provides timely feedback on the needs and issues LEAs are facing as they support their ELs, including the continuity of learning for EL students who may be facing inequities in accessing online learning and other support resources. It's this feedback which informs the MOS unit efforts, which, for example, resulted in a very quick turnaround for delivery of distance learning PD for both designated ELD and integrated ELD. Beginning in late March, the MOS unit since then has conducted nearly 40 online meetings, webinars, and trainings, primarily using Zoom as a delivery platform. These events have attracted over 4,000 attendees and have focused on a variety of important topics, including the English Learner Roadmap, which for those of you from outside California, that's a California framework, the Zoom interpreter feature, the integrated and designated ELD instruction through distance learning, support for dual language programs, and the Belief module, which is the blueprints for effective leadership and instruction for our English learners' future. The MOS unit also provides access to technical assistance and resource sharing through the California Department of Education's Collaboration and Commons platform, where EL program support discussions and resources are shared on a daily basis. Now, our special education unit took similar steps in order to best support our schools and districts. So beginning in late March, they held more than 30 online meetings, trainings, and webinars, again, using primarily Zoom, and they supported over 4,000 educators. Many of these events were job-alike meetings organized for different roles disability types, and age ranges. So they included meetings for directors, both district and SELPA, and I'll tell you what a SELPA is in a minute if you don't know already. Speech and language pathologists and speech and language pathologist assistants, occupational therapists, orientation and mobility and visual impairment, deaf and hard of hearing. They had meetings for mild, moderate, and mod severe teachers, and then further subdivided those meetings for early childhood, elementary, and secondary and transition. And they even brought in experts from across the state, like Linda Pippert, the chair of the California Speech Language Hearing Association, and Monica Nepomuceno from the California Department of Ed, speaking about student mental health. Finally, to accompany these meetings, they created several Padlets for asynchronous Q&A, as well as resource sharing for both educators. And resources and links to both these units are going to be on your resources summary sheet that will be sent out. So at this time, it's my pleasure to welcome into the conversation Jackie Williams. So Jackie is the SELPA Assistant Superintendent of the West San Gabriel Valley Special Education Local Planning Area. That's what SELPA means. So for those of you joining us from outside California, a SELPA is a consortium of school districts that combine their efforts to be more effective and efficient in supporting students with disabilities. So Jackie and her team are the SELPA System Improvement Leads grant recipients. So they're leading work not only around LA County, but as well as the state to improve a system of support for students with disabilities. So Jackie, thank you for joining us today. And could you please speak to our audience about your experience participating in these online meetings and what benefits you saw for you and your SELPA districts?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, James. So our districts initially, when the Job Alike started, primarily my directors, I have 14 districts and I have 14 directors and myself, and we would join those meetings. And as those meetings grew, more participants started joining in. And the collaboration, I think, is what really resonates with me, and the result of all of us having the opportunity. And as you all know, LA County is massive. It's huge. We have 25 SELPAs in LA County and hundreds of thousands of students with disabilities. So bringing in like educators into groups, the magnificence of the sharing of resources and skills and ideas was something that it was unmatched in the past. We had never had that opportunity. So, you know, finding the bright spots in our current situation, LACOE bringing us all together was a phenomenal opportunity. And we also had the opportunity from the SIL work to bring in some of our tools and resources from that work into our directors meetings and introducing them there. So it was a phenomenal experience, and we had many hundreds of folks from myself alone participate in all of the different Job Alikes. They were very well done.
Thanks, Jackie. And what's interesting, my last in-person professional development was in Jackie's facility out in El Monte. Most schools closed the next day, so I did a 2-day UDL boot camp, and then I actually didn't go back to my office after that for almost 2 weeks. But like my colleagues across LACOE, I began pivoting my UDL supports into a digital format. So initially, we took our existing course, UDL Getting Started, and we offered no cost access at a limit of 50 licenses per district. So CDOL sent that word out, and in the weeks that followed, we enrolled a couple hundred teachers into that class. It's a self-paced class, but we had been wanting to update that course for a while, and this gave us the impetus to put that effort really into high gear. So all this work is part of what we call the Universal Design for Learning Academy. We're able to, we're just determined to deliver high quality, engaging, self-paced digital professional learning at no cost to participants. I'm very excited and slightly over-caffeinated because we're pressed for time to share the first two offerings of what we plan will be an extended series. We're starting with 2 courses. The first is UDL Bootcamp Online. We took what had been more than 2 days of in-person content and re-envisioned it for an online platform. This course has 14 lessons, dozens of videos, interactive knowledge checks, and even scenario-based learning components. We also embedded reflection questions in nearly every lesson, and these can be used individually or to drive collaborative conversations, almost like a book study. Now, not everyone may have time at this moment for such an in-depth course. So then we boiled down the essential elements to make a much shorter course, UDL in under 60 minutes. And this is enough for people to get off on the right foot and also provides them with resources to further their learning after completing the course. And one thing to say about that 60 minutes, we explicitly encourage people to take as much time as they need. Some folks, they get interrupted, they like to take lots of notes, review materials repeatedly, what have you. There's no pressure to finish in an hour. We just thought it would give people a rough idea about how much content was involved. And our beta testers have averaged just under an hour to complete it, and those that went over admitted to some of those factors I listed earlier. So how is it we're able to offer courses at no cost? Well, part of that answer is that we're hosting them on a free platform called learningdesign.org. This site is run by CAST, the UDL folks, and the UDL Implementation Research Network. And it contains a whole host of resources, including videos, articles, podcasts, and more. Now, any educator can create an account for free and then begin our courses. They can stop and come back, and the platform will remember where they left off. Plus, while they're on the platform, they can explore other resources that are there. How do we make this happen? Like any big project, it takes a team. Dottie's Creative Impact team, the CDOL Creative Impact team, helped us with video creation, provided feedback on design elements, and set up the webpage I'll be showing you in a few minutes. Further, the California Department of Ed and the Supporting Inclusive Practice Project allowed us to deliver in-person training at an earlier time and then capture that work on video so that we could build digital elements that are included in these courses. And then finally, we have to thank CAST. Not only are they providing the learning design platform, but they also gave us critical feedback on our courses to help ensure that we are delivering high quality supports that are authentic in their teaching of UDL. I bet you're wondering, how do people access these? Well, you just follow these directions, which are included in your resources handout. You go to this website, you pick one of the courses, you sign in or you create an account for the first time, and then you just go and learn. I'm going to show you how you even get to check out a course without having to start an account today. But before we get that, a frequent question after engaging our people in professional learning often is, well, how do I know if they learned what I needed them to learn? Well, if you want to assess your educator's level of knowledge, you could recommend they earn one or both of these certifications from CAST. They can go through the platform, they complete assessments using their knowledge of UDL, and then they receive official certification from CAST. So that's one way you could do it, because the course itself doesn't cost anything. Success gets the person a certificate and a digital badge. There are costs for these. I believe level 1 is $30, which UDL in under 60 minutes will prepare you for. And then level 2, which bootcamp will prepare you for, is like $60. But that's less than most any workshop that you would go. And again, those costs are not part of LACOE. That's just if you want people to get certification. You could always measure their knowledge by watching how they practice. You can even model UDL in setting expectations. You can require teachers to demonstrate their capacity, whether through these assessments or other means, by such and such a date, and then give them options for how to meet it. Show them our courses. Let them read a book, do a work study with other folks, do their own exploration. At this point, you can take a walk through the UDL course. Gerald has thankfully put this link in the chat, and so you don't even have to create an account. It's going to go straight to our UDL in under 60 minutes course. So I just want you to take a few minutes to kick the tires on that and see how it works. And if we've got a little bit of time, we'll take questions or comments before you go. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let you explore.
This is great, James. So folks can click on the link now and start to peek at it. And even if they click on it and save it and come back for more learning. But thank you so much for making it all so accessible for them.
Yeah, so if they use that link, that that gives them a preview of it. I would have them go, just if you took that link and took course off, go to udla.laco.edu/online. They can go there and then they can go to Learning Design, get on the courses. Again, those links will also be on the resources sheet that's going to follow up with this. And thanks so much to Dottie and her team and all the participants. I've learned a lot today, and I hope that, and Jackie, thanks again for chiming in, and I hope we're able to contribute a bit to this great effort.
James, thank you so much. And I'm in the course right now, and of course I've seen it, but boy, you did a beautiful job. And for those of you that need the whys, the whats, the hows answered about UDL, he's done it. Jackie, hugs to you. I know you're doing some heavy lifting, so appreciate that. Before we end and I pass it back to Kim, I need to give a big shout out for everyone that you saw today, kind of give their heart and soul and their hard work and sharing with all of you. And we are there for you. You will get everyone's contact information. Kim, I think the world of you, amazing work. And I also, big, huge thank yous for the talent and the time of my staff. I cannot have done this without you. The way we were able to bring the best of the best to the table is all because of your great talents, skills, and your dedication to our children. And one last thank you, I'm sorry, for Danielle. Danielle was really the one who reached out, and thank you for the opportunity.
Dottie, you and your team are a great example of rising to the challenge.
Try.
Relaxing on this beautiful summer Friday evening. How will you rise to the challenge? How will you help those you work with? How will you pivot during this time? And I love that you all went with the word pivot, because there's energy there and you just need to redirect some of it. So we don't want people to feel stalled out and pause. We don't want to be waiting we don't want to be settling for online learning. We want to pivot and let that energy flow right through us and through our systems and organizations into maybe even doing better work than we would have in person. And we challenge you all with that idea. So thank you so much for taking the time and energy to join us here today. For taking care of your own emotional and mental health. Just expressing gratitude has been shown to actually be good for ourselves. Dottie and your team, you all do that so well and so often. I've been very grateful to be part of this, and encourage everyone to express gratitude to your teammates, your colleagues, as you're all starting to roll out messages and maybe letting people know how the new school year will look. Make sure that's stamped with a big dose of gratitude, genuine, authentic gratitude, and hopefully some optimism that we can do this, and maybe we can even do it better than we would have. Take care, everyone.
Bye.